Five-judge bench today, in fact, decided against same-sex marriage, and we've been talking about this issue and what it means and what are some of the legalities that, in fact, made the Supreme Court take such a decision. Obviously, the Marriage Act is one of them, and traditionally, this has been something which has always been controversial as well, considering the culture and, of course, the Hindu way of life. But the queer community has argued that this is a way of life. This is something which is also found to be true in nature. It is not something which is considered to be a mental disability or any kind of a taboo which has been associated, with being queer for decades now. But the fact of the matter is that this is a concern that the queer community has been battling for a very long time. And of course, while reading out the judgment in the batch of petitions, Chief Justice D.Y. Chandrachud also said that the court cannot strike down the provisions of the Special Marriage Act or read these words any differently. The institution of marriage in the Indian society is being considered pious and essentially a union between a man and a woman. While the court upheld the rights of queer people and stated that if a transgender person wishes to marry a heterosexual person, such marriage will be recognized. It declined to legalize same-sex marriage though. In this telecast, we take a deep dive into what is marriage and how it varies in different cultures and religions. We take a look at the definition of marriage under the Hindu Marriage Act, the Muslim Marriage Act and the Special Marriage Act. We take this telecast to focus on the concept of marriage as well. Joining us on the telecast to talk more about this is Advocate Shamsharvish Rain, Senior Advocate of the Supreme Court, Bhrigushri, Dr. Monica Anand, who's a Dharma Guru, also joining us on the program, Niharika Karanjawala, Principal Associate of Karanjawala and Company, also with us on the program. Thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. Niharika, I'll begin with you and thank you for being here. I hope you can hear me.
Of course I can, yeah.
Well, marriage by definition is, of course, constitutionally described as a union between a man and a woman. The court also went out to say that there is a technicality and there is this judicial, overway which cannot be ignored upon, and that is the reason why this act cannot be appended. What are your thoughts on what happened today, and what is the recourse now for this community, which says that they have been, their interests and their rights have been trivialized for decades now?
So, my read on the situation is not that the Supreme Court has reaffirmed that marriage is only for heterosexual relationships or that it's not for members of the LGBT community or anything. My read on it was, for one, they have said that they are not able to find a constitutionally recognized fundamental right to marriage. That is for all peoples. And what they also said is that urgent steps must be taken to ensure that the LGBTQ community does not face discrimination. The view they've taken is that the steps that need to go through need to come from the legislative branch. So, in fact, as the Learned Solicitor General had offered earlier in the arguments, they have moved forward with the offer of setting up of a high-powered state committee to ensure a reduction of this discrimination and more equality and the extension of rights. And in that extension of rights, as the Learned Solicitor General and everyone had argued, that it is, if rights of marriage are to be granted, it must come from the legislative sphere. We are very hopeful that they will consider granting a framework for marriage as well. My view from this was not that marriage is not for homosexuals or marriages only for a certain type of person or something or the other. It's a question of legality of framework, separation of powers. And so as a result, we look forward to this high-powered committee being formed sooner rather than later. And we look forward to some significant steps being taken in that regard. The fight will continue, definitely. It's just it'll continue now more into the public domain and in front of Parliament.
Shamsharvish, if you look at other countries, countries that we are looking to aspire to, who allow same-sex marriages, how evolved do we need to be to accommodate this community? Because obviously, as we already know, that they have been fighting for their rights. The decriminalization also took a lot of time, but yet it is still not followed to the T. They still face problems, they still face issues. Succession is an issue, child adoption is an issue. Getting a flat to rent in several cities if you are a queer couple is an issue. The court, however, has said that these are sensitive matters which the police machinery, that's the exact word that the Chief Justice also used, that the police machinery needs to be sensitized to. But, how long is this going to take?
Well, the difficulty here, I would say, is that police, since past many years now, they know that even the same gender people have a right to stay together, be a couple, but still, some way or the other, they have been harassed in a different manner. So, court's judgment was, according to me, it's something that we all know that what kind of government right now we are with, who do not even think even a bit about same sex at all. According to them, it is against their religion, culture. So putting the entire burden on the legislature is nothing but it's just putting the burden of this thing on someone else and saying that no, we have done our job. I think it's wrong. It's the Supreme Court should have taken a strong view on it and said that yes, same-sex marriage should be allowed, because it's been really a very long time now. I mean, it's been ages. Poor humans, they are actually struggling. It's basic human right. It's very basic human right. Why can't I get married? Why can't I get married to whom I love? Why do you want me to get married to someone whom I don't love and of a different gender? I mean, it was very basic, and now since the lawyer who was arguing there, the one who had filed the petition, she also said that a very basic thing, that I, being a Supreme Court lawyer, I cannot get a basic insurance scheme for my spouse because of this only. I mean, that's a very small basic thing. So adoption they have spoken about, but then in this also there is a problem when you go for the adoption to the agency. Even they make such kind of a statement that single boys will not be given custody, and then girls who are staying with the similar gender. Of course, it might bring little change, but it's going to take ages. If you bring a law really changes. If you have an act in your hand, it will change a lot of things. But if you don't have an act in your hand, it's something that ho jayega. It's been only 75 years. Now wait for next 75 years. It's okay. Ho jayega. So that's where it's wrong. And Justice Chandrachud, of course, his statement was very nice. He said that according to Constitution of India, everyone should have a right to marry whomsoever they want to marry. But very unfortunate that it was 2:3 and not 3:2. Had it been 3:2, 3 in the favor and 2 against, still something would have happened. A good thing would have happened. But it's very unfortunate. But I hope now that the matter is in future referred to a larger bench. Let them think about it. But I also think that
Shamish, I also want your reaction on what Mr. Tushar Mehta, who was the Solicitor General, went on to say, and I quote, he said that this verdict basically balances the interest of individuals with the interest of a civilized society. So are we trying to make a point that the societies and civilizations that allow for same-sex marriages are not in fact civilized?
That's very sad statement that I think that he has made. Civilized society is someone who believes in equality, who believes in fundamental right, who believes that everyone are equal. Constitution of India should be the higher base. Upon that, everyone should be there. It can't be your religion, your culture, your society dictates Constitution of India. Constitution of India is a very huge thing. It's actually pillar of your own country. So if you say that it is not a civilized country if you love someone, that's actually wrong. Let the love fly. Why do you want to suppress love? I mean, that is a hideous thing that I could say, and also I would say that since he is officer of the court, and since he's Solicitor General of India, who is representing the government over there, this shows that the government is not inclined. And then again, putting the burden on the legislature for next 5 to 10 years, I can rest assure you it will not happen.
All right, Dr. Monica Anand. Dr. Monica Anand.
Yes, can you hear me?
In fact, let me also put out some excerpts of what was going on between the centre and, of course, the Supreme Court when it comes to this issue. The centre also had opposed the petitions for marriage equality on behalf of a number of queer groups, saying that the petitioners who are putting in these these petitions are the urban elite and do not represent the majority of the Indian population, to which the court also shot back, saying that this is not about elitism, this is not about being queer, this is basically about a concept which is found in nature, it's a concept which you cannot deny, it's a concept that needs to be appreciated, it's a concept that needs to be understood and solved for. Just like this anomaly, there are other anomalies which occur in nature as well. We have provisions for those, then why not these?
Yes, but then they come back by strongly saying that the wedlock would be between the not the same sex, and in India it cannot be possible because of the Hindu Marriage Act, which they've kind of passed on the buck to the Legislative Assembly now, but then in India they said they cannot have that, because even Manusmriti and all the Shastras, all the religions do not support this. VHP, RSS, all the political parties have hailed the decision. It is not that they would not constitute it as a marriage, but for now they don't want to get into legalizing the whole thing. So yes, it is more of a political this thing, but then they've kind of passed on to the legalized Legislative Assembly also. And because of the Hindu Marriage Act, they have stated there, Honorable Chandrachud ji, that, this is not, this can be done in European countries, but not here.
Niharika Karanjawala, what do you think is the way ahead now? What do you think the queer community is likely to do? They already are very upset. They said that when it came to decriminalization, it took 60 years post-independence for something like that to happen. And now this is another struggle which will or may eventually happen, but it's going to take a lot of patience, a lot of time, a lot of endeavor, and a lot of effort.
Because for all of the petitioners' lawyers, on the one hand, it is very disappointing that we did not succeed this time around, as we had very high hopes. Of course, it's disappointing. That being said, change often comes in small incremental doses. In the same way, there was a great sense of disbelief before 377 that we would reach a point where there was a decriminalization. We will soon reach the point where we have marriage equality as well. And like I said, I think, the fight has to continue. Most of the petitioners that I have been in touch with, they have a sense of resolve. In fact, rather than a sense of feeling disheartened in any way, that, all right, the fight will continue, but it has been a fight till now, and it will continue to be one. And now the sphere has just moved. And frankly, I think now what's more important than anything else, because as Dr. Monica said, now this has a slightly political bent to it, because it's gone to the legislative. Perhaps it should not have a political bent, but ultimately these things can't be helped. When you're dealing with things in a political sphere, very often you have to show the might of the will of the people. And one of the big arguments being argued here, being put forward time and again, is that this is just such a small group of people, and their rights aren't material because it's so small in comparison to the majority. And on one hand, I would say, well, that doesn't matter because it's a question of rights. So if any section of the population doesn't have rights, that's an issue. But this isn't such a small section of the population, not nearly as small as most people think. And in fact, I think now is the time more than ever for members of the LGBT community, for their families, for their friends, for all of their allies, to make it clear to the state and to the government machinery, this is something we care about. There are numbers behind this issue. This isn't just about only members of the LGBTQ community. They aren't the only ones affected by this. We, their families, are affected by it as well. We, their friends, are affected by it as well. We want to see them on an equal paving as us. And we want them to be able to live authentically. And this is an issue that great numbers care about. And I think that is when the legislature begins to take notice, when there is a feeling that, oh, there are great numbers behind this issue. So yeah, this fight then does need to change a little bit, because it's argued one way in the judicial sphere and now a different way.
You also
before
said that,
Parliament.
legalizing same-sex marriage is for the courts to decide and not the parliament. But now the ball is in the parliament.
I totally agree with you, and I honestly was fully of that view, being that feeling that this is an issue of fundamental rights and of interpretation. However, I would never presume to disagree with the Honorable Supreme Court. The Honorable Supreme Court has given us their mind, right? Now, all we can do is we will respect their decision, and we will carry this fight on.
But how is it going to be possible for a cultural revolution also to be precipitated by the government, to say the least, when it comes to looking at this issue as something which should be embraced now?
That's an excellent question. And I think it all comes down to a certain degree of societal change as well. I think India is a country whose population has tremendous capacity for tolerance. I think we have tremendous capacity for justice. And I think ultimately we have very little capacity for injustice. Now, for the vast majority of people who oppose same-sex marriage and things like marriage equality, I would venture to guess that a lot of them don't know and are not friends with, are not related to very many gay people, or don't know that they know, because people are not comfortable being out of the closet yet. Now, what is important here also is visibility, because there is an importance to being, to the entirety of society seeing that a same-sex couple, aside from one significant small change, is exactly the same as a heterosexual couple, and therefore should have exactly the same rights, therefore should have exactly the same benefits, right? They are no different from you or me. And as a result, when people see a group not as an out group, but as one of themselves, their empathy for them begins to grow as well. So now that this has gone to the legislature, I believe this needs to be a combined societal effort, when people's opinions are informed not just by caricaturist images that they see in books or movies, or by political propaganda or something like that. They then begin to see people as actual human beings. They begin to empathize with those people, and they suddenly find that they're a lot less comfortable saying that those people should be considered lesser than or not given equal rights. So I think when society sees more and more people in leadership positions in the LGBTQ community, when people feel more comfortable coming out of the closet, I agree, this might be a long-winded fight. Of course, our hope is ever that the state will take quick steps, since the state offered it themselves in court. They offered themselves to set up this committee. So we hope that there was a great deal of bona fide behind that, and we hope that this is something that they will do fast. But even if it is not, this is not a fight we can give up on simply because it may be hard. It may take the rest of our lives, it may take a few further generations' lives, but it is something that the march of time will eventually take to a more progressive place. The march of time goes towards progress, not away from it. At least that's what I believe strongly.
Thank you for articulating that so well. And Shamsharish, another thing that came to my mind was that, in countries where same-sex marriages are allowed, are legal, they are battling a different kind of a battle. Gender identification has become an issue in the West, whereby people want to identify themselves as this or that. I'm not sure if India at this point in time is ready for such a change or a revolution, because it's only a matter of time that starts here as well.
Yes, this is a very strong point that you have just raised. This is what the difficulty has been happening. I mean, women fought for their basic voting right for many years. Then they have been fighting for their rights to be there, fight with the male gender. And now this thing has come up, of course, not in India now, that a man who has converted himself into a woman and become a transgender is started saying that I am a woman, and which is being recognized in few of the countries, which is causing a difficulty for a woman. I mean, things are changing at every place. If you keep on saying that no, this is okay, this, I think this is a very important point, wherein a transgender should have a different category. Why do you always want to have just two categories? You could have men, women, transgender also, and of course others. So why only two? Adding different genders, I mean a transgender or any other into woman or male is a problem. But here in India, I would say that this law that we have been talking about, that when will this thing come? I would say now it's time to understand that your vote really matters. Your vote for change. If you see that this government is not progressive, vote for someone else. The party that is progressive, give a pressure on them that yes, you have to do it. I could easily say that this government will never ever do it. It's against their religion. But for the other party, you have to see
the previous governments also didn't do it, Shamshavish. The previous governments also didn't do it. It's not only about this government. There were other governments at play in the past as well who could have done it very easily. They still didn't do it.
But after this judgment, wherein the Honorable Supreme Court has said that we are leaving it to the legislature. So the next government, if they really want to come and stay here in the power, they have to do it then. Because this government knows that we are doing pretty well in whatever things we are doing. And in case ye wala nahi hua, this is a very small subject. It doesn't matter. They are just handful of human rights that are being infringed. So they would never do that. So people have to think whom to vote, what to do. And yes, as the previous speaker spoke, that now everyone have to come out. It's not only LGBTQ, it's the parents, it's the friends, it's the office space, whosoever are affected out of it. I mean, I would feel bad if some of my friends don't share the equal human rights that we have. So everyone has to come up. They have to speak that no, we cannot tolerate all of this, and we have to make sure that these humans get their basic human right. It's our fight now. And then of course what's happening abroad, that thing will also come up in near future. So for that also we are actually ready. I would never agree that you would say that this gender should be added into women. No, they are a separate gender. Give them their identity. We all are talking about going on Mars. Adani or that Ambani, someone has bought a land on moon. And here we are still talking about
that's not true, Shamshavish. That's not true. That's not true, Shamshavish. That's not true. Nobody owns the moon, so that nobody can buy land on the moon. All right, we are getting ahead of ourselves. Dr. Monica, last thoughts from you. We've run out of time, and then we wrap up.
So I was just listening to Shamshavish also. So it's just not as simple as, binding two people in a marriage bond. It would be, as you rightly said, a lot about progeny, social status, a dignified life, and a peaceful life, and a whole set of rights opening up after this union. So looking at the traditional set work of our country, this goes against the whole thing. And once we're talking about all this, of course, we are all open and we are talking about.
Monica, I'm sorry. I have to make a statement here.
Let her finish. Shamshavish, let her finish. Let her finish. She didn't interrupt you. Wait, hold on, Shamshavish. Let her finish. Dr. Monica, finish your point.
Making it a law and making it a legalized marriage and giving it a dignified life to two individuals of the same sex would still be a long journey here. And it does goes against any religion. It could be Muslim, Hindu, anyone. None of the religions are supporting it, because the ecosystem would also suffer by all this. So one-off case, yes, there are a handful of people, and we can't ignore it. There is no majority on it. And I think, yes, politically also, both the cases, in both the things it's true. But then, it would mean giving two equal rights to people who are of the same sex to a dignified marriage, which is also not possible here.
Right, point taken. We've run out of time, but this is obviously a debate which has many facets and many loopholes and many possibilities and probabilities for the future as well.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.